Yeah, and so for the last year, I'm doing this kind of thing on the faculty, just within the school, having lunches not once a month, but yeah, pretty much once a month in the fall and the winter. So I just pick a topic or someone suggests a topic, and I wasn't sure how many people would show up when I first started them, but some of them there's only been 6 or 8, but most of them have had 12, 15 or so attendees. So people seem to want to show up regardless of what the topic is, and even some people some of our more senior, well-respected researchers who I would have thought may not have been interested, even they've shown up
That's a pretty
to quite a few of them. So I mean, like I said, we've got I think 40 people on staff, and not all of them are there every week. So I've been pretty pleased with the turnout on that. So we just discussed different kinds of things, just from technology to more philosophical stuff. We had Steve Farino from the math department came in and gave us he did the last one. They've got a big online initiative going on over there that he's leading. So he came in, brought one of the guys from what do they call that? Center for Extended Learning? Yeah. Aldo Caputo came over, and they just talked about the development process for moving some of their courses online, and gave us a bit of a demo. So try to mix it up in terms of the stuff that we cover. Another thing that we started doing, I guess, 2 years ago, because we rolled out a new undergrad program in the fall of 2011, so it's being rolled out year by year over the next 4 years. So Scott, you've been in some of those so whenever there's a new semester in the program coming out. So 2B, we didn't really do one did we do one for 2B?
We've done 3 so far, I think.
Yeah, I guess we kind of did.
3 or maybe.
Yeah, because this should have been the 4th one. We did have a small one, but not many people were there. We've tried to bring together all the people who are going to be teaching the next semester in the new program, and run them through it's like a quickie version of the full course design workshop.
Yeah, kind of like a half-day course design workshop.
Just to kind of take the stuff out of that we've got in our new learning model, and try to see what we can do to get the next round of instructors to implement some of that stuff into their courses. So that's been an ongoing thing for the last couple of years.
In general, how receptive have colleagues been to this new learning model? I mean, it's great, right?
Yeah, as you would expect, it's kind of hit and miss. So a lot of them are, some of us are very enthusiastic, but some of the older crowd are a little skeptical, and not overly interested in having to change anything, or not really buying into the model in the first place. Even if they buy into it, they're not really going to change what they've been doing for the last 30 years. So it's kind of fallen on a smaller group of us to try and get things into some of these existing courses. We've got at least four new courses in the program, so that gives us some room to play around with stuff. But and we're trying to push some of the areas, there's some, like the financial accounting discipline within the school. They've had the same model for like 40 years. There's 4 courses, an intro, 2 intermediate, and advanced, and the same topics get covered basically every school teaches it the same way. So we're starting to try to push them to blow up the model and try something new. But again, it comes down to who's going to do it. The senior guys aren't really interested. There's only 1 or 2 junior people, but they've got to worry about getting tenure, so don't really want to throw it on them. So then it falls back to me or Nancy Vandenbosch or some of our other curriculum-oriented people, and we're already jammed up. So that causes problems. But I think in general, I would say the vast majority of people like the model, even if they're not going to really do much to help us implement it. They at least like the idea. So that's been good.
I think it's important to note that their model and the implementation of that has been like a process over like 5
Oh, I
years.
think it started in,
or-
I think
yeah.
it started in '07, long before I got here.
Yeah, because I remember the first discussions about that, and we had workshops about, you know, kind of rethinking what they were doing, you know, and like that, you know, that's taken like quite a while to, when they find, you know, got the model, and then getting buy-in, okay, and then beginning to roll it out. So it's just been in the last 2 years that it's
Yeah.
actually being implemented now. And similarly with in environment, there was, you know, it's like 5 or 6 years ago when there was, you know, first like some talk about like some curriculum changes and stuff, and then it's, you know, slow process, you know, before some things, you know, finally get implemented.
Does everybody know the model that they're using in school of accounting and finance? Can you say a little bit about it? I mean, when you talk about the model, I assume you're talking, you've got
Yeah.
the beautiful learning outcome
It's
chart,
a-
the circle.
it's a
right?
circle.
Talking about, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got, see if I can remember all the slices. There's the functional accounting technical competencies across the various disciplines within accounting, just understanding business in general. And then the rest of them are kind of the softer skill type things, or in accounting we call them enabling competencies now. The critical thinking, professional judgment, collaboration, leadership, ethics, problem solving. So it's most of the model is most of the slices in the model are the softer skill type things, and there's only 2 out of 7 that are actual technical knowledge things. So that's the biggest thing for people to get used to is, you know, when I went through my training, and even the vast majority of other schools, it's just fill their heads with information about tax and accounting and finance and all that stuff, and they'll figure out all the other stuff along the way, like we did back in the old days. But now, I don't know. On the one hand, it kind of puzzles me that we have to put so much effort into teaching them how to do these other things that all of us just managed to figure out along the way somehow, and maybe we don't do them all very well, but for now, some reason, we need to train this generation on how to work in teams, or how to solve problems, or how to behave ethically. So it's kind of just seems a little bit strange to me.
You wouldn't think.
Yeah.
And then in political science, you watch the news, and you're like,
Yeah.
maybe we should teach them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with the meltdown of some of the big accounting firms.
Yeah. Well, certainly on the ethical side, yeah, there's on the ethical side, but yeah.
Well, Scott and I were at that presentation yesterday on work integrated learning, and he showed how values had changed. I forget what the time span was, but getting along with others, because like totally gone down to the bottom. I just want a job. I don't want to get along with others.
There's something I can do where I won't interact with other people.
Oh, I can't get a job.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's those other areas, those, you know, enabling competencies that most of us in accounting, you know, we don't really have any background on how to actually teach those things. So,
Here's the model, by the way.
oh, you found it?
I love this. I love the way you guys do learning outcomes. You put on all the syllabi, right? And there's a sense of the alignment.
We try to get them on all the
individual
syllabi.
courses
Oh.
And the degree level learning outcomes. I love
Very
it.
cool. So.
And the
this
way
is
that
on
shows the
everybody's-
alignment between the hard skills and the soft skills.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm teaching one of the new courses in the program this term, our second year integrated course. And so I put the little thing in the course outline, and then I just, you know, we don't attempt to cover all 7 or 8 of those. How many are in there, Kelly? I should know this, but I think it's 7, isn't it?
7.
Yeah. So yeah, we don't attempt to put.
Yeah, I know.
Scott knows. He's sick of it. He's as sick of it as I am.
I love the dartboard.
The dartboard, yeah, we call it the dartboard.
That's awesome.
It is a really nice dartboard.
Yeah, so I mean, the students, the students that are coming through the new program know the model well. In all the course outlines, we put that in there and highlight which slices of the pie we're trying to focus on in that course, and have specifically worded learning outcomes tied to the slices in the pie. So, yeah. What's odd about it is the students that are coming through the first time now, they're feeling like guinea pigs because we're trying all these new things on them. And so they're not really too sure about whether it's going to work or not. But then the students that are the year ahead of them, who are under the old model, they look back and see what the new kids are doing, and they say, oh, I wish I got to do that. So it's kind of strange when you look at the two cohorts. But yeah, we'll see how things go.
But I like that, even as a way of mapping outcomes,
Yep.
makes a lot more sense than the list to me.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I love it.
I just might have to borrow that
Yep.
as we
Yeah.
write our outcomes.
Yep.
We're trying to actually steal something like that for the faculty, and then other units to be warmly encouraged to borrow as well. So there's a line
Okay.
within the faculty as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's various things that, I was a student here, an undergrad and a PhD student, but I've only been teaching here for a couple of years. But I'm told that there are a few things that the School of Accounting has kind of pioneered on campus, like I think the living learning communities was something that started with us
Nice.
and has been picked up by other people. I don't know. I think there's others.
What's a living learning community?
It's set up in the residences. So there's a more senior student in the program will try to find out who else is living in residence and put together these little, just like, I don't know, a little more formal than a study group type
Academic
thing.
dawn kind
Yep,
of.
yep.
And then they do cool activities.
Yeah, they
where
do
invite
special events
faculty for dinner or bowling or something.
Yeah, we had a lunch last week that or not a lunch, an ice cream thing in
Yeah, they do ice
the
cream.
student lounge. And, yeah. Yeah, and they're trying to set up. That was just a drop-in type thing. They usually try to set up like more formal, like 8 or 10 students go out to lunch with a faculty member or something, 3 or 4 times a term. I'm drawing a blank on other things that have been picked up on in other faculties, but the work term reflections, we did that. Yeah. Okay, that was something. E-portfolios.
E-portfolios, you guys were like one of the first.
Yeah.
Doing that.
Yeah. So there's
Kind of a lot. Who was spearheading that? Who did all that?
Bob did the e-portfolios. The guy that Grant Russell. Yeah. Yeah. So Grant Russell, he's one of the guys that's won the Distinguished Teaching Award. He's been around for. Yeah. He's been around since the 70s.
He's in the student success office now?
No, he's the.
With somebody else, okay.
No, he's the. I don't know what his title is. He's the associate director of graduate and undergraduate programs. And he's always had a strong focus on the teaching side of things. So yeah, he's pushed I think he was behind the living learning communities thing, and Bob Spruill, the guy that teaches one of our big first year business courses, did the e-portfolios, and the work term reflections, I think, was his idea too.
They both, Bob and Grant implemented e-portfolios at the same time. And well, that was a good learning experience.
What not to start in your last year.
Yeah, because Grant's was a 4th-year course and Bob's was a 1st-year course.
Huh.
And the 4th-year students were like, huh, why are we doing this? And the 1st-year students really didn't know anything different, and I was like, okay.
This was
Yeah.
what university
That's
is.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Did we start any initiatives in AHS that you know of? I'm sorry, I'm
We
just
try not to
wondering.
have initiatives. It only leads to work.
That's a lot. It's It's a significant number for one department, not even a faculty.
You guys did try I don't know how it went, because it was early on, but they had a first-year course and a second-year course, and then they tried to cut out an hour and have it as a tutorial.
Yeah,
with Len Ward and Linda
Yeah, that was
Tessa.
an epic fail.
Only because I don't think they had
Epic
full
fail.
buy-in.
That's right.
Yes, they
But
went
I
through the
understand
motions of,
that really flamed out.
well, it helps when you know what you're doing in the tutorial,
Good
instead of
point.
finding out 10 minutes before.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much free to experiment with lots of different. I mean, this 211 course that I'm doing now there's 330 students in it, but the way we're doing it is we bring all of them into a 1-hour lecture on Mondays, but then they're split into 8 groups of 40 for 2-hour workshops at other times in the week where we just analyze cases for the most part, introduce them to how to analyze cases, make decisions, and things like that. So that's kind of, I think there was one of their, I think was it the guy in physics that has that model. Can't remember his name, but he did a talk over at the Flex Lab that I went to one time.
Steve Lambert on the case study, or splitting them up? Into
No, just
small-
he just on having the one big tutorial and then splitting up, or the one big lecture and then splitting them up into the workshops.
I think,
or the-
doesn't Kerry Busenet do that?
Yeah, I think so.
And he was trying to get his, like, one TA or one lab
Hmm.
instructor per smaller group.
Yeah, I don't think it was him. I know what he looks
One
like.
of
Yeah.
our rec and leisure faculty members started that too, and
Mhm.
it's been successful.
Who's that?
Katie Meisner.
Oh, yeah.
She got that from Western, it's standard
That's right.
Western, that's what she did her PhD.
That's right, she said she's importing a lot of stuff from Western. She was pretty involved with their Center for Teaching Excellence, whatever it's called there.
It's standard at Western partially because the faculty and staff and TAs are all unionized there. So there are rules about how many students a TA can have in a tutorial.
Okay.
And so it gives you a really nice arithmetic and some muscle
right.
behind the arithmetic. You would never have a TA running a tutorial with an entire section of students, and it would violate the.
Yeah, no, we're not using TAs for the workshops. I'm
Yeah.
doing 5 of the 8, and another an adjunct is doing the other 3. So, yeah, it's not
No,
it's not a way of
thing.
pushing work down onto TAs from faculty members. It's all faculty members in the classroom.
Meaning that, to be blunt, it's more expensive, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we're trying this new initiative with small 25-person first-year classes, and it's very expensive.
Yeah, and I mean that's obviously one of the other advantages that we have in the school is our tuition is insane. So,
Insane by Canadian standards,
yeah.
not by American.
I mean, the university, we don't know how much the university sucks up, but they suck up a lot of it, but we still have more money to play with than a lot of other departments, so it makes it easier to, staff a course like mine with faculty members instead of TAs, and to try things, and some of them work, some of them don't, but
So as a school, do you actually have a budget that pays for, so maybe you don't, the departments in the Faculty of Arts don't have any budgets. They get sort of an allowance for operating costs, but none of the wages come out of that amount. It's never actually expressed as a budget. It really is a lot like egg money, it really is a lot like an allowance. You
yeah, I've never seen it, but we have it. Yeah, we have a
you
budget. Yeah,
and you pay your own people.
yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that would make a huge difference.
No, I think we do have a budget.
Because I know accounting during the co-op term, they hire, is it 3 accountants or 2 accountants and 1 person to give feedback to the students while they're out on their work term?
I don't know
Yeah.
anything
To
about
get
that.
feedback on their,
Their
like
reflective
their,
statements, so
yeah.
they-
their-
Oh yeah, we have. Bob's got a team of
Is it 3 or 4?
I don't know who does it. I think it's 3
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure 2 are accountants and 1 is communication.
that read these. Yeah, they read the students' work term reflections and give them
And they're actually doing
comments.
it for pay, they're not doing it as.
Yeah, it's for
service.
pay.
Well, they get paid.
Oh, it'd be so much easier to get people to do things if you could pay them.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
Yep.
Wow, that's something we don't have.
And they give them feedback in week 7 and at the end, so it's not just end of term.
Wow.
So you guys wouldn't have any resources to pay,
I mean, we pay someone to mark our work term reports in co-op, but that's about it.
but I mean, you couldn't get professionals in
No.
the field
No.
and pay them a proper.
No. No. We need you'd have to make some kind of appeal to like giving back to the profession.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Which would be more or less successful.
Yeah, and we also are fortunate that we're able to raise a fair bit of money from external sources, accounting firms and other places, so we're probably one of the most fortunate programs on campus in terms of from a financial perspective, in terms of tuition money and
Extremely
External.
well alumni, right? I mean, you've got alumni who identify really closely with the school.
I think it's probably could be better from what I gather. I haven't had too much to do with that since I've been here, but I think it's better than some places in terms of alumni support, definitely. We get them back to help out with various, case competitions or sit on our advisory board or do this and do that, so we do. We've got two, I think they're both full-time, two full-time and then an admin assistant person in our, whatever they call it, school development office. So,
I think we probably have a lot of money, though I know nothing of these things. But I think AHS probably, we have massive grants that people, in multi-million in the department, faculties.
I don't think it goes.
Takes-
research grants though.
No, well, that's not true. I was told directly my
Oh.
salary is paid by the big silverbacks. I was told that.
What does that mean?
What does the silverbacks mean? The people, the senior, they happen to be mostly male.
Oh, the ones with the
people who
research
run the
money.
research center.
I see, silverbacks.
I started calling them that. I didn't know that bad thing.
It's like the head gorilla that gets all the mates. You know, it only goes so far.
Yeah, exactly. That part breaks down. But they do pay salaries of lecturers, so I don't know if that means we have a budget, but that's how I was told our sausage gets made. That's how we have resources for, we don't have a plethora of lecturers, but that's how they
Huh.
have some smaller seminar classes taught by.
Oh, because the silverbacks are buying out their own teaching.
That's
what
right.
it is.
That's
Oh,
right.
it's not that they're, okay, yeah, so it's not that they're actually being,
Oh, here, take some of mine.
No, they're
being
not
generous. They're buying
No.
themselves out of teaching so they can do their research.
I see.
That's right.
Right, okay. Right,
But
okay.
it's a lot of money, if it's
Can you still do that on
multi-million.
a CIHR grant? Can't do it on a short grant anymore.
I
No.
don't think our people mostly have shirts, I think they have inserts, and
That's what I mean, the other tri-councils still allow you to buy out?
as of last year,
Huh.
somebody supposedly had to
Good old shirt.
pay my salary.
I'm not sure most shirt grants would leave you enough money left
Yeah.
over to do research if you bought out your teaching anymore.
So what role does the Ignite, not Ignite, but the first 2 weeks of the second year where you get all your second year students coming together?
The Professional Futures Conference?
Maybe that's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah, so the students, so before they start their recruiting for their first co-op term in the 2A, and that is, again, not something I've had any involvement with, but they call it the Professional Futures Conference, so it just gives them interview training, resume writing. They bring in motivational guest speakers to get the students in the mood. That's one of the things that we've been trying to do. I think it's been Grant primarily that pushed that, is trying to develop the professionalism of our students in addition to making sure they finish the program with knowing stuff about accounting and tax and all the other technical areas. So that's I guess that's kind of the signature piece of the second year. The start of the second year is this Professional Futures Conference. I'm not sure how long that's been going on, but I think it's been around for quite a while. And that's probably the biggest thing that I noticed when I came down, because I taught at Laurier for 9 years before I came back here 2 years ago. And the first time that I taught here was the same level of students that I taught all the years at Laurier, and I didn't really notice any difference in terms of their technical knowledge, but they definitely came across as much more professional and respectful than the Laurier students. So, and I've heard other colleagues have made similar comments. I mean, there's still issues here and there, but I say by and large, whatever we've been doing with these students seems to be working, at least by the time they get to the master's level, which is where I was teaching at the time. Other things?
Can you say a little bit about what your work report reflections look like?
I actually cannot.
Okay.
Do you do those? Is that your?
No, but we're in a situation where we have almost no students doing our departmental co-op, and most of our students are doing the arts and business co-op. So I'm thinking of ways to add value to the departmental side of the co-op, or scrap it, which is
Right.
actually also an option as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about what other people are doing.
I can share some resources with you, Bob.
Okay.
And Bob would be happy to.
Yeah,
talk to you
Bob
about
loves
that.
talking about that stuff, so.
Awesome.
Bob
Sproul?
Yep, S-P-R-O-U-L-E. Yep. Yeah, he's back from Dubai, so
Oh, he was a Dubai person?
he was in Dubai, yeah. The last of the Dubai people just got back at the end of April, yeah. Other things?
I wonder if there's I'm wondering if there's a qualitative, I mean, of course there's a qualitative difference in that you're a professional school. That we can't, it just sounds like a different climate in terms of commitment to teaching. It's so clear where your students are going. For
Well, I
ours,
think that definitely helps.
we don't know where our students come in thinking they're going to be MDs. And I can count on that one hand how many actually get accepted 4 years later, so it is.
Much less those that come out the other end.
That's right, exactly. But we know that most of them won't go on to medicine, but then they don't know where they'll go, and we don't know where they're going. And so I think there's just more of a streamlined process for your students, and I'm just trying to understand that climate difference, and I think your climate sounds similar, what I can see in terms of faculties to engineering, which also has a kind of a clearer path.
Yeah.
Although they're not a professional school, right? Are they? I don't know.
No.
Well,
They
no,
have to,
but,
they have an accredit.
but they have,
Competencies.
but
have
yeah,
to-
they have professional accreditation,
That's
which
right.
is different than a lot of other departments.
Right. So they're
Um,
similar.
So they're more similar
To-
to School of Accounting and Finance and other schools
Mhm.
like.
Pharmacy and
like-
pharmacy.
Yeah, that are
Yeah.
accountable to some external external accreditation body.
Those are all of the disciplines where the word on your diploma will actually match the word in the job ad, which is actually comparatively rare.
That's right.
Within academia generally.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is, well, for a long time, they've had to orient themselves towards fulfilling the accreditation body
That's right.
requirements, right? And so it wasn't when the undergraduate degree level expectations came out, like, it's not a big leap to competencies, because they've been doing that for eons already.
Right.
Focusing on demonstrating that students have gained knowledge in whatever. And so, that's not a huge stretch, whereas in a lot of other departments, it's kind of like brand new. And it's, kind of a different mindset.
It'd be interesting to see how Ken's impacted, because they have,
Now
they're
they're-
regulated.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
School of Public-
That's one thing that we haven't got around. That's one of the things that's on my agenda is a program level assessment of learning outcomes. Right now, all we have is what we get from the within the courses, plus how well our students do on the professional exams when they leave the school, but we don't have anything built in at the end of the undergrad program or at the end of each year in the undergrad program to assess whether the stuff that we have in that little dartboard is actually being met, or we're showing any progression as the students go through the program.
On campus.
I don't-
In the review you have to, I think, don't you?
You mean the department?
The 7-year review.
I don't know what.
Really
I don't
we
think-
would
No?
have.
No, because we
Just have to
just
show you have
we just did ours.
I think you showed numbers, right?
We just did ours, yeah, but there's no formal need to show data of any kind that you're actually meeting whatever outcomes you have for the program. But that's our new director is keen on that, and that's something that I've been keen on since I got here. So I just need to find time to roll it out.
I was teaching my students in a program evaluation class about a nonprofit in the community that is a women's residence for women who've been homeless or are hard to house. And their evaluation of the program is how many women are living there. That's the whole evaluation. Which, yeah, I was trying to teach my students, okay, here's evaluation in the classroom.
Yeah.
And here's what they submit to their funders, including United Way and the provincial government. It's just how many beds are full, literally. How many programs are offered. It's just bean counting.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's very difficult to do, but they're not doing it. We're certainly not doing it, at least in our faculty, looking at this beyond what we each do in our classrooms, which varies so greatly, right, in terms of outcomes and alignment.
Yeah, Barb Moffat in science is looking at some first-year orientation things, so the students have another idea other than med school that they're going into. So I don't know how she's assessing how that's going to impact the sort of culture of the science.
It just occurred to me, Troy Glover gave a great little talk during the O&D conference. It was about measuring outcomes in recreation and leisure. But I mean, within recreation and leisure, they actually have to identify the outcomes and measure them. And it seems to me that it's easy to scale that, or we could extrapolate from that to educational outcomes. And we're not doing a good job of measuring. We should get Troy and colleagues to offer some workshops on measuring outcomes within post-secondary.
Was Troy suggesting they do that across the department or just his class?
No, he was talking about within leisure activities. So let's say,
Oh, right, gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so if the goal of the soccer program is increased
That's right.
fitness, then how do you measure that
Mhm.
there's increased fitness, right?
Mhm.
That's what they do in recreation and leisure, and yet we do all this programming, but we don't have any training in measuring the outcomes of programming.
Right.
Or even in thinking about the outcomes.
No.
We program first and then come up with the outcomes ad hoc afterwards.
Yeah.
And then if somebody asks us to measure them, we make something up.
That's right.
Yeah, you just pull out some final exams or some assignments or something and
Yeah.
say, see, they can do it.
You know, it's about
Most of them can do it,
bias.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's that quote? What did we just learn? Backwards design.
Backwards design.
So I'm going to try this coming year. I'm going to try backwards design. Start with my outcomes. Work backwards. See if
Yeah.
anything matches. I'll probably have to throw.
It's
the
so
whole
funny
damn
thing about backwards design, go back to that dartboard, right? Just imagine
Yeah.
if in any kind of target process, somebody suggested that first knowing what the target is, starting with that is backwards, right?
It's
It
kind of
kind of
funny
sounds
terminology.
backwards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought you were going to say backwards design is starting with what you actually do and then figuring it out.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of poorly named, yeah. And we generally aren't that good
Yeah.
at it. No
Yeah,
matter
yeah,
what we call
yeah,
it.
no, yeah, you don't put the content first,
Right.
is the idea, yeah, which is what tends to happen in every discipline, especially accounting is particularly bad for that, just.
I want to ask about something that you said earlier, and if you can have others think about this as well. You were talking about how when you're trying to mount a new approach, you know, the senior people are going to be resistant to change. The junior people, we shouldn't put it on them because they're busy getting tenure, and so it's a slice of people in the middle who have to deal with it all.
Or, I mean, the other thing we have, I don't know what the proportion is in other areas, but we've got, we try to keep it like quarter to a third of the full-time faculty are lecturers. And so, you know, a lot of the admin in the school is done by, a lot of the serious admin is done by us.
Quarter to a third are lecturers.
Yeah.
Who work at accounting firms, right? Is that the
No,
people?
they're like me.
Okay, oh. I
Just
see.
full-time
Full-time
teaching service,
Really?
teaching service people. So, yeah, like, you know, so Bob is one of the guys who's done a lot of teaching and learning stuff. He's a lecturer. Nancy Vandenbosch, who's spearheaded this new learning model, she's a lecturer. Jim Barnett, our former director, is a lecturer. So I think that's another kind of cultural thing in the school, is that there's always been this, we're not treated as, the lecturers aren't treated as like lower tier.
That's not.
But they've been coming to the school, right? I mean,
I mean, effectively,
what explains that?
eh?
What explains the fact that lecturers have often run the school? I'm not against it, I'm just trying to understand the cultural
It sort of
difference.
makes sense, in fact.
Yeah. What explains it? I mean, it's really only, it's something that's they didn't really hire their first, I think Bob was like the first one that got hired back in, Jim was he was a long time ago, but it's only been in the last 10 years that so they hired 4 or 5 back in the early, like 10 years ago, and then they've added a few more here and there. We just hired 2 more in the last month, so I don't know what we're up to now. I think it's like maybe a dozen, at least, probably 10 or 12 out of, yeah, probably more than that. I guess part of it's a function of, it's just hard to, there's a demand for accounting PhDs far exceeds supply. So we wouldn't be able to staff courses with full-time people if we didn't rely on lecturers. And
Is that the difference? Lecturers don't tend to have PhDs?
I'm the only one that has one.
Okay.
The rest are,
That used to be the case.
the rest came from practice. Came from practice, decided they wanted to do something else. And I mean, we've got, like, Jim, our former director, was a partner at one of the big accounting firms. Linda, she was a partner. Like, I don't know how we've managed to do it, but we've managed to attract some fairly, Nancy Vandenbosch was a partner at Deloitte Consulting. We've been able to attract these, like, really, like, high level
And
talent.
maybe that's it. I mean, it's people who had status being hired into a job and sort of brought that status with them, whereas we often hire lecturers to fill empty positions.
I think that helps, is that you're bringing people in who were senior managers or partners or had other senior executive positions, or they knew me from when I was a PhD student. So I was.
Unlikely they'd come in teaching 6 a year, right? Or what are they?
Yep, 6 is the normal load.
Oh, they come
but
from private industry and teach 6?
Yep.
Holy shit, that's impressive.
yeah,
But it's a career change then, it sounds like.
It's a
not-
career
they're not
change.
keeping their
No, I
day
Yeah.
job
know,
well.
still,
No.
that's still a
No.
lot.
It's
Because
It
if
is
you're
a
going to
lot,
do it
that's
well, that's a lot of classes.
it's a career change. Yeah, so.
Do they still have 40-40-20 split, or what's their?
60-40 teaching service, although some of it gets adjusted because I do a lot of service, so mine's adjusted. Nancy does a lot of service, so it's
There's no expectation of research, that's why it's a
Nope.
6-class one.
no,
And that's why they are more involved in admin, right?
yeah,
Okay. So it's a completely different model. It's
Yeah.
Right.
using lecturer in that context and lecturer in the sort of normal department, in the standard departmental context.
Yeah.
It's just a homonym,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, no, we definitely have, as I said, a lot more responsibility, a lot more respect, probably than in other departments. And the researchers are obviously fine with that, because, as long as we hire competent people into those slots, it takes the admin load off them, so they can do what they like to do and let someone else run the show. So.
So that's the assumption, somebody junior who's hired tenure stream, they're gonna have a lighter teaching load and do more research,
Yep.
and also a lighter service load.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't really expect much in terms of service, and they teach, I think their load is 3 for the first 3 years, so I don't know how that compares to other departments, but.
My question was about the, so maybe it doesn't apply very squarely in accounting in any event, but I've been talking to various junior faculty members who, you know, on the one hand want to do the right kind of teaching development early on to kind of get started on the right foot, but really the pressure is on them to keep up on the research, and there's so much pressure now from the deans and department heads on junior faculty to do various kinds of teaching development and so forth, because the assumption is that the old silverbacks aren't going to change. If you're going to have a change in culture, it's going to have to come from the junior people. But I've been talking to junior people who say, I feel overwhelmed because it's enough to do the research. There's all this pressure on me to be part of the cultural change in teaching. I'm kind of at odds about this. I think that the change does have to come from the junior people.
Yeah.
I don't know how we can reasonably expect them to be the source of the change, though, given all the other pressures.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's kind of unfair to expect that.
Yeah, I think we've got 4 new tenure track people coming in July. I wasn't involved in recruiting, so I don't know what they're like on the teaching side of things, but the last couple of people we've hired over the last couple of years they're really into the teaching side of things. They taught a lot while they were doing their PhDs, and they're really keen on the teaching side. So that's been a nice, that's always a nice when you can bring tenure track people in who look like they're going to be decent researchers, but they're also keen on the teaching side. So, and again, I think that kind of it doesn't always get emphasized probably in the hiring process, but certainly not something that we overlook when we're recruiting for the tenure track slots, is try to make sure they're going to be good in the classroom as well. So
When people, and maybe this is for everyone, when people go up for tenure in your faculty, in your department rather, if they're better instructors than researchers, are they going to be able to jump through the hoop?
I can't speak to that. I don't know that process well enough, but I don't think it would be enough to carry the day. I think you still need to. It's still the research that counts the most.
Yeah, I think don't you have to get good in of teaching, research and service? You've got to get good in 2, at least, or I don't remember. I always get confused because the tenure standards are not the same as the merit standards. 'Cause
Right.
that would be too logical.
That's right.
But anyways, in our department, when we wrote our tenure document, we explicitly defined what it would look like to go through tenure on the basis of extra strong teaching and a weaker research portfolio. And we basically said that if you're going through on teaching, you'd have to be sort of at the winning teaching awards
Right.
level.
Yeah.
But we also define that on the research side. Like if you're going through on just research, being super strong and teaching being
Right.
less strong, you've got to be at the I published 2 single-authored monographs before I went up for tenure kind of level,
Right,
or the winning book awards kind of
right.
level. So we did explicitly lay out what the criteria would look like, so that it is possible to go through that way at the department level. Now,
Right.
Lord knows what happens
Yeah.
when it gets to the faculty or to the university level.
Yeah.
Right.
But according to the standards we've set and that we send out,
That's kind of a high bar because
It's
there's
a
only
very high
one
bar.
teaching award. There's kind of only one that I know of, so if you
Yeah.
don't get a DTA, then,
well, but we were thinking like there could be teaching awards outside the university as well, like the private,
yeah, I
the
just
private
don't know
ones
how
like
many
3M.
people get those.
and-
Yeah, I don't know that
Yeah.
I think a 3M person would
Going to be around a while.
I don't know
to get
either,
those
but on the
usually.
other hand, if we're saying that normally we value people who do both teaching and research
Yeah,
well, then we wanted to say that the bar for going through by being a mediocre researcher and a super good teacher
Yep.
actually has to be pretty high, and
Mhm.
vice versa.
and vice versa.
Mhm.
That's great that you had that
And you know, there's
conversation.
language written all through our thing about if you can make the case, we
Yep.
will consider the case.
That's great. We would not have that conversation, nor would it be true, so
I hope
Couldn't
it's
have
true.
it.
I mean, we haven't, to my knowledge, nobody's tried to go through on just research or just teaching.
well,
But
not
I hope,
just
I
one or
hope
the
it-
other, but what if it's
Well, but as I say, the
strong-
university standard, and Shannon, maybe you remember, the university standard for tenure is like in research, service, and teaching, you have to have 2 at, is it at the good level, the very good level? I just know the words are not the same as
Do you know that? 'Cause
10
we don't
merit
have that.
review.
Right.
And the other, you can't go through if 2 of them are weak. You can go through if 1 is weak, and if service is weak, that's less critical than if
Yeah.
teaching or research is weak.
Okay. 'Cause I don't think research can be weak in HS, but I'm assuming if whatever it is.
Yeah, and by weak I mean
Yeah.
satisfactory.
Yeah.
I have learned that the language is all in code.
It's
so
all-
it doesn't actually need
it's
to
all
be-
Yeah,
relative.
the merit review
It's all
process,
relative.
satisfactory means weak, but you could potentially get tenure if you had satisfactory all the way along, even though everybody knows satisfactory means weak.
Okay.
Satisfactory means unsatisfactory, but there are.
It makes sense. It makes perfect sense.